welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Dan Harten, and I lead the customer marketing team here at Hire Easy. And one of the biggest passions that we have here at Hire Easy is we believe that the future of recruiting should be shaped by the people in it and actually doing the job. And we're committed to creating 100% free learning experiences that help you grow your skills, elevate your career, and ultimately connect with the top minds in this industry without cost even being a barrier. So I encourage you to use the chat. A couple reminders, use the Q&A session. This should be an engaging webinar. If you have a question, throw it in the Q&A. Utilize the chat and make sure you put to everyone so everybody can see your comments. Obviously, be respectful. This will be recorded session. And also, one of those experiences is coming up is August 13th and 14th. Every year we have Hire Easy Recruit Con. It's the largest free virtual recruiting conference. We have Glenn Cathy, Tim Sackett, Brandon Jeffs, and so many more people. And the theme this year is We Control the Future. Because as recruiters, we are the ones that will create what is ahead and where we fit in. So I put a PDF in the chat. I'll put it in there as well. But there's also opportunities to get you guys involved as much as possible. Obviously, speaking about AI, if you're not understanding what is going on, we have a ton of AI courses dropping in the Recruiting Academy every single week that I encourage you to sign up. Again, it's 100% free for you and your teams. Before we get started, I just wanted to, again, encourage you to be a part of the chat, not just listen. We want to hear your perspectives, and we want to make sure that this is an engaging webinar for you guys. But let's dive in. I have the pleasure of introducing the panelists here. We have Shannon Pritchett, the VP of Marketing here at Hire Easy, a former recruiting leader. We have Kate Warman, Head of Global Operations of TA. And then obviously the one and only Brian Fink. He's a managing partner at his new company, Rework Group. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you go to his LinkedIn, check out his new company, and give him as much business as possible. So
Give me as much grief as possible, Dan. Give me as much grief as possible, right? Like, why in this era of recruiting, when everybody's looking for the role in-house to go, why did I go out-house, right? Well, I mean, that's because I'm
100%.
a redneck, right? Like that's where we use the bathroom in the first place. But this is epic. Everybody, can we give Dan a big thumbs up in the chat about putting this event together and all the great work he does to bring great energy to our community at Hire Easy?
Well, the title is Where Do Recruiters Fit In? Part of that is, bringing the energy, bringing the focus, and bringing the next generation of what does it look like. So maybe we start with that question. We titled this session Where Do Recruiters Fit In? And what was your first reaction to that title? And where do you see the landscape in recruiting right now? Maybe Kate, start us off with that question. What came to mind with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, we're in an era of like huge transformation. Even if you think about 6 months ago, the landscape has changed, right? And so I think that this webinar is all about how recruiters continue to show their value to a business that is looking at how do I economize, right? What is my new workforce strategy? What needs to be done by a human and what can be done by AI? And I think that we're at a critical turning point where recruiters need to be a participant in our own rescue to say, here's what I do, here's how I add value to the business.
Love it. Shannon, we were talking about what is most impactful. What are people talking about? What are people concerned about? We came up with this topic. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And why this topic is so important for the community right now?
Well, like most savvy people, Dan, we went to ChatGPT and we asked ChatGPT, what is the number one question recruiters are asking it right now? And it is, how do I fit in this new intelligent age? And so it's kind of been our focus for the FRBRs newsletters that I've been writing. And, you know, I'll say it is confusing. I commented on one of Brandon Jeff's posts today. Recruiter AI adoption is a major problem right now. And then LinkedIn refreshed itself. And the first post I see from Kyle Lagunas is AI adoption is increasing in TA right now. And I'm like, it's not. I think we think it's increasing, but it's not. Just because you purchase a product doesn't mean it's actually increasing. And so, that's where I feel like it's so confusing right now for so many practitioners. Brian, you shared that Fast Company article about AI replacing an entire
Entire orgs.
and there's a section in it. I wish I had it saved and pulled up, but it talked about you can stand on the beach and scream at the tidal wave that's coming in, or you can grab a surfboard and learn how to ride that wave. And I think we all want to grab the surfboard, right? This is our survival in the intelligent age. David Manister put a post today. God, I sound like I live on LinkedIn. That said the Anthropic CEO said that a recruiter's weekly worth will be replaced with one prompt, find and engage candidates. And David asked if that's true. And I said, well, yeah, 100% it's true. If you think your value as a recruiter is only sourcing and engaging candidates. And we all know that it is not our value as a recruiter. And if you read the Fast Company article, which if someone can find it and share it, if not, I will. What I like most about that article is that it talks about the ways for us to more humanize the process. The way that we can add in value where AI can't replicate is our key to survival as an industry. And I have not seen recruiters evolve that way yet. And it's not the recruiter's fault. Because if we're not changing how we're being measured, if we're not changing how we are able to interact with candidates, then how are we supposed to evolve into that? So I think when I look at AI adoption problem right now, I don't blame the recruiter. I blame, again, leadership. And I think a lot of companies are making it so easy for the C-suite to think that recruiters are just doing administration tasks. And yes, we've gotten to that point where a lot of our work is, but that's also how we're being measured. Brian, what do you think?
So real quick, I did drop the link to the Apple News article from Fast Company that Shannon was referring to in the chat. I want to respond to Jennifer Burgess and her comment about measurables for recruitment are all over the place. That's actually, as Shannon was speaking, I was immediately thinking that, and I'm glad that Jennifer, you and I, the universe is speaking to us, is that we focus so much on, or we have had a conversation since 2018 about the candidate experience. It was the hot topic at all the conferences. I'd like to argue about what's the hiring manager experience. What are we doing to really enrich with the business? What are we doing to create an understanding of how the sausage is made and the why as to why we're hiring for this particular role, right? I think that will lead to better job descriptions. I think that will lead to better job adverts, better employer branding. We've got to be asking those 5 whys, and we've got to be going a lot deeper than we had previously. And not to beat up on the year 2018, but in 2018, recruiting was vastly different. And I think a lot of people are anchored to the past and they're not embracing the future. They're not swimming out to that wave that Shannon is talking about, grabbing the surfboard. Since COVID, since 2019, we have gone through 5 economic cycles. Okay. That's exhausting. All right. You can read about it in the Wall Street Journal. You can read about it in Fast Company. You can tune into Dr. What's his name? Professor Scott Galloway, and he will talk to you about the exhaustion that we are undergoing as a species because of the constant reiteration in economic cycles that's going through. In the past 6 months, we've had a huge change in, and you may think that was a pun, we've had a huge change in what's taking place economically in the United States and globally. And those repercussions have deeply affected our relationships with candidates. I want to go back though. 5 years ago, sourcing was an independent function.
Mhm.
I don't, maybe I'm wrong here, but I think sourcing is dying. I think that we can, if we had the adoption of these tools, of those prompts, we could source at scale and we could better engage with our candidates. That's what I've got. And that's what got me excited about the topic, Dan. Thanks for letting me be here.
Okay, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Right. Like I think that the value that recruiters can bring to the business has to do a lot with being able to participate in that workforce strategy and then kind of the workforce planning. Why do we need this person? Where do we need this person? Bringing in the analytics to be able to inform whether or not that's a good choice. Are we going to be able to get that person there? And then being able to do that proactive talent attraction. I think that's a really big pivot that we're seeing. People used to talk about being an order taker. I think we're past that right now. We really need to be adding value to the process to be able to show how recruiting is more than just a sourcing engine. Right? What we do to add value has so much to do about that human connection and being able to then advocate on behalf of the business and on behalf of your candidates to be able to find that right match. And AI can simulate a lot of that stuff, but it can't make that human to human connection.
Mm-hmm.
I think all those three talking points that you guys just had is AI is everywhere in recruiting right now. And there's a lot of misunderstanding, misconceptions of the aspect of what a recruiter is and how we partner up with those hiring leaders. And then you touch on the workforce planning and the recruiting workflow. From a leadership standpoint, where do you see AI adding the most value in a recruiter's day-to-day workflow, and being a partner and a value to the organization versus AI can just do it and replace?
Listen, I was playing around with our product yesterday and I found a bug, but it's amazing how it has changed, right? If you're not familiar with the Hire Easy agent, right? It is you prompt first off, if you have it connected to your ATS, your projects, everything gets auto loaded in there. But if you don't have a project, which I don't have an ATS connected to it, then I just started from scratch, and it's a simple prompt and it goes ahead and starts doing sourcing for you. And then it takes time to thoroughly review all the resumes and then stack ranks those resumes, and then you can start your outreach, all this stuff. And I made the argument, like someone's like, "Oh, how much time are we saving recruiters by reviewing every single resume that you come across when you're sourcing?" And I'm like, "We're not saving recruiters any time there." I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, recruiters don't review every single resume they come across in a search because that's too time consuming. There's just no way. We've never been able to do that." And the fact that you can lean into AI now and have AI, you can trust AI to do that for you, I think is a huge advantage, because, we've all had those experiences where the keywords might have matched, and we send someone a message that wasn't a match at all, or it's a bad employer brand experience and this and this and that. But as a leader, I look at AI and I'm like, wow, this is making us a lot more intelligent. This is helping us achieve things a lot faster. But the whole point of this is cradle to grave process from prompt to outreach takes under 5 minutes. And then and you can do multiple positions at once. And so you can take your whole entire workflow and then go ahead and automate that, and you control it and just wait for responses to come in. Of course, then the agent can engage with the candidate and schedule things, stuff like that. But as a leader, I'm looking at this as being like, now you can finally have deeper conversations with candidates. Now you can have more deeper conversations with hiring managers. Now you can do a lot more to boost our employer brand, right? Dan, we are embracing a lot of AI on the marketing team right now, and we're taking on a lot more responsibilities within the organization. And we're not decreasing our team size whatsoever. And so we're really leaning into AI to try to do a lot of things that we just simply weren't able to. And we're doubling down on things where AI can't help us, right? Video marketing, social media engagement, stuff like that too. Because I'm not putting the agent to interact with people on social media, but that's where we're starting to shine. And that was really important to me. It's like, wow, I think you're starting to see every single post on LinkedIn sound like ChatGPT. Let's do the exact opposite. Let's try to stand out. I think recruiters and recruiting leaders have that ability. But again, you have to have confidence in your approach. You have to have confidence in your strategy, and you have to lean into the technology that you trust to help make, these processes improve.
100%. All right, on
I
the
think
flip side then, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think that Shannon's totally right. It's about recruiting and AI. It's not about recruiting or AI,
Mm,
right? And we really need to think about how AI is going to be able to assist us in doing our jobs better, not replace us. And I think that that's a critical thing that recruiting leaders need to be taking up to their business leaders as well. Because I think that when you're looking at the bottom line, okay, AI is automating 25% of my processes. Does that mean I can get rid of 25% of my team? No, right? You're enabling your team to now do more impactful work that they were bogged down with before when they were having all the admin that they weren't able to do. So now you're creating a richer candidate experience, you're creating a richer business experience, you're getting those top tier candidates to your interviewers faster, right? That's the value that AI can bring to the table with the recruiter.
mhm.
So I want to, Kate, you said faster. Is that I think that faster should be replaced with efficient and more personalized, right? Is that as we're having this conversation and we're automating candidate discovery and we're automating outreach and we're automating scheduling, we're also giving candidates the optionality to not talk to a recruiter. We're giving candidates the optionality to talk to a chatbot and to engage in such a way that is comfortable for them and what they're used to and the way they want to engage. So we're actually really enriching that theme of candidate experience and high touch deliverability, that white glove treatment that we all like to propose that we deliver to each candidate in an individualized, personalized manner.
Yeah. And I don't care how, it's like you look at these like the OpenAI CEOs and Anthropic CEOs, and they'll be like, oh, when you compare human interaction, like in a blind test, like a conversation with what you think is a human versus an actual human, you know, 100% of the time they're going to go with the robot. Unless they know it's a robot, then they're going to go with the human. And there's a theory behind that too. But I disagree. And here's why. You give a candidate the choice, right? Like, let's take myself here. For some reason, machines do not understand me. The worst experience I can go through is when I, call in any 1-800 number and it's like, well, tell us what you're looking for. And they never understand me, right? And so if I'm trying to get a job, my livelihood, my career, this is we all worry about the resume black hole. Now you're worrying about the AI black hole. And you're going to tell me that I'm going to trust a machine to transcribe exactly what I'm saying to be able to sell to you and how I'm exactly saying it? No, 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 no. I'm going to want to speak to an actual human because there's a huge risk that we're going to weed out so many great candidates just because of, a mismatched conversation with a voice agent. And I think that that's where it gets really scary. Sourcing, finding, stuff like that is one thing. But, recruiting, I'm going to steal some Glenn Cathy post here. The actual definition of recruiting is to persuade, to convince, right?
Yes.
And a robot's not going to do that for you. And so that's where I get worried as a person. I'm just like, wow, we all speak differently and we all say things differently. We have quirks and personality, and that's what makes interviewing so fun, is when you can change it up a little bit. And to have a machine take that, I think is so dangerous for employers right now. I don't think AI is there. I don't see it getting there anytime soon. And I work for an AI company. And I think that's going to be very dangerous for the candidate.
We started off the call, just me and Brian just have a full load of coffee energy. And I think my greatest strength is my personality and energy and what I bring and how I can influence a room. And you're right, if the AI takes that away, I am just going to go based on my experience, but the best skill a recruiter can have is the influence your hiring decisions. If you're in a debrief, how do I influence? I know candidate is better than candidate B. It's my duty as a recruiter to voice that and influence the decision. And you're 100% right. If we rely on strictly AI, those different characteristics, and the number one characteristic is influencing,
Mhm.
that's going to get taken away.
Yep. And even the frustration of applying with AI. I'm not going to name any vendors, but it's no stranger to the fact that I play around with tester competition a lot, and it is not easy to apply with AI.
No, no, I had a friend call me yesterday because he was like, Brian, do you know what this code in this applicant tracking system means? Because it keeps giving me this. And I was like, I have no idea. But I called a friend of mine at the company and I said, he's getting this code. And it's like, oh, he listed too many skills. Well, there was nothing that told the candidate that there was a character limit in the chatbot.
Yeah, see that, yeah, it's like little things like that. And I think that again, so what recruiters can do, right? I think we've talked about candidate experience, but we got to talk about the recruiter experience too, right? These are our values, right? This is how we fit in right now, is to amplify that vision. It's I think I'm excited that we're going back to recruiting 20 years ago. That's basically what it is. We're going back 20 years ago when, there wasn't LinkedIn, and there wasn't, job boards kind of sucked. And we had to get into the power of networking and persuasion and showing up at a developer's user group with a box of pizza, and stuff like that. But I look back at 2005, and there wasn't much we were doing back then that could have been really automated. Like, I think AI would have struggled in how I was recruiting back then. Well, number one, I was a very bad recruiter, so if AI tried to copy me, we'd be really screwed. Don't give me a look, Brian. I was horrible. Like, when I first
Okay, so Shannon trained me, everybody who's on this call. When she was at Air, Shannon trained me
that wasn't
and she told
2005.
no, okay, okay, that's fine. We're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no, yeah, I cut my teeth like we all did. But yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, it's how we fit in. It's like we go back to the basics.
Well,
Is
I think the basic that Dan touched on is whether or not somebody can build rapport. And AI, we don't know if it can build rapport, and we also don't know if AI knows how to read the room.
Hmm.
You
Oh yeah.
know, I mean, like I get very I have lots of questions about accessibility because, for there's a surge in neurodiversity, right? And I'm just wondering, can AI personalize to speak to a neurodiverse or neurotypical individual and make that distinction? And if so, what kind of biases are at play, right? But yeah, it's
100%.
Lauren Hernandez, you are welcome. Thank you for giving that up. All right.
Well, this was part of the HireVue lawsuit, right? It was they were displacing candidates by their facial reaction and facial expression. And, I mean, let me bring up a friend I just talked about. You get Glenn, Kathy, and I in a room, and we are exact opposite, introvert, extrovert, and you're going to immediately think that one's more engaged, one's more excited than the other, and that's just how we're wired. Meanwhile, Glenn is probably paying way more attention to what you're saying, and he's probably way more dialed in the conversation. But like, it's just like, that's what I do worry about. It's, the dealing with neurodiverse candidates, dealing with people who have a speech impediment, diversity taking a hit. And so that's the stuff that I think we've always been a champion for, and I hope we can continue to be a champion for.
For sure. All right, so we talked about AI adding value on the front end, screen automation. On the flip side, we don't want AI to take away that personal edge that everybody has, no matter who you are. Moving forward, what are skills that are non-negotiable for recruiters moving forward in this new era? And how do they set themselves up to be a value contributor to the organization, and kind of debunk some of this misconceptions that, CEOs and C-suites have about recruiting currently right now? Loaded question.
Uh, Dan, real quick, if I can jump in here
Sure.
about the corporate Ozempic trend that's taking place amongst CEOs. where they think that they can do less and power it by AI. I think it comes down to three things that recruiters, and this may be double clicking into what Shannon said about using the skills that we had in the beginning, is that it's got to be go from manuals to strategic. Recruiters have got to focus on high level or high value relationship building and decision making. I think that they've got to go like was suggested, that we've got to go from reactive to proactive, that AI, yes, let it handle the legwork. Okay. Like there's no dispute there. The finding, the screening, the scheduling, let it do that around the clock. But you've got to make the shift to being that proactive talent partner. And then finally, I think that you've got to go from static to adaptive, uh, improving those processes in real time, using the data that AI provides you from your ATS or from your CRM, and using those opportunities to self-learn, to Google things or to YouTube video things, or I guess things is the operative word here because I can't think of another noun. But I think that's where you go deeper into the relationship building.
Yeah, AI can help make recruiters smarter, right? Like as recruiters, we have to know a little bit about a lot of different types of roles. And I work for a tech company. There's new technology evolving faster than any kind of recruiter can keep up with it. But if you go and you ask one of the AI tools, tell me about this type of technology or tell me about this role, what are the good characteristics? Then all of a sudden you're showing up to your intake meeting with your hiring manager with a lot more knowledge about what the role is, what the role looks like, what good looks like, what they might be looking for in the role, and you can have a more informed conversation. You're not just getting the basics.
Hey, about that, do you feel that hiring managers are copping out by using AI to say, this is the job description I'm looking for a software developer, and they're using that as their template when they're having an intake session instead of what they really need? Like they're reading a script to you instead of actually performing the five whys that we have from Toyota about why we need the role, 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 why do we need the damn role, right? Like,
Or
yeah.
what you'll be
Yeah.
doing. I would hope they would be prompting it based on what the position is actually doing, not just like give me a job description for. I feel like job descriptions are already there. The vagueness is what I'm going with, but in terms of like, man, I hope not. Wouldn't surprise me.
Creates a ton of
Yeah.
risk within the organization because then you have hiring manager A defining the role, with these qualifications, and hiring manager B defining the same role with another set of qualifications. So you're not having consistency that's going to affect your internal mobility and your talent management. I mean, you're not setting the organization up for success when you do something like that. What we actually did was we created a job posting repository based on the talent management org design official kind of job hierarchy and architecture for the organization, and then brought in the marketing EVP and tone of voice into that. And then that popped out using generative AI, a job posting that was candidate facing, ready for, marketing kind of speak, but based on the requirements for the actual role within the organization, and then enabled our recruiters to actually bring that to your intake discussion. So you're coming prepared to the conversation, say, okay, well, this is what this role does at our organization. Let's fine tune it for the specific technologies or experience you need for this particular role. And we
Hmm.
enabled, 80% time savings in terms of time to post, but also enabled our recruiters to be so much smarter and so much more prepared when they got there for that job launch conversation.
Mhm.
Love that.
I think going back to Dan's question too, to kind of pivot a little bit, I think a recruiter's value is still in the size of their network. And, we kind of like the problem with recruiters being 100% reactive is that it doesn't give them a chance to be proactive in their network. And, like when is the last time you reached out to a candidate and you didn't have a role for them, right? Developing those relationships. I've noticed that I've always been a very hot commodity within the HR tech space because of my knowledge and who I know and my connections and, just my background in general, right? And that wasn't by chance. It was because I made a solid effort. I absolutely invested a lot of time in trying to get as much um, as much from a community as I possibly can, right? And it was like, Brian, when I go back to not 2005, but maybe like 2008, when I was like really struggling as a recruiter and we were going through, or really wanting to learn, and we were going through the pandemic. I've told the story a lot. How I wanted to learn was I started really investing into the ERE articles and the SourceCon articles, and I would purchase the Career Crossroads books. And if you look at my employment history, where did I work, right? And then I started paying for AIRS training out of pocket, and lo and behold, I became an AIRS trainer. And then I started blogging and putting everything I was learning out on the web. And then people like Steve Levy and Paul DeBeddings and, a ton of other people would contact me and be like, oh, hey, I see you're doing it this way. That's really cool. You taught me something, but here, let me teach you something. And, that's how I developed my network, is just simply learning from others, sharing my mistakes, and trying to help as many people as I possibly can. And I think we're in that unique position as recruiters to do the same. Trish Radurka is somebody who does it beautifully. She's well known to help job seekers around the DFW region. But I think that is such a valuable asset. Case in point, how many HR tech recruiters do we know? Do you guys know like the Hire Easy recruiters? Do you guys know the smart recruiters? Do you know greenhouse recruiters? Don't you find that bizarre? Shouldn't we know them? Shouldn't those HR tech companies, recruiters, be networked within our space? I wouldn't expect you guys to name the Hire Easy ones, but I don't know any of them, the other recruiters as well. And that's case in point, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I feel like we kind of lost that along the way. And that's something that's it's free, it's easy to do. And it doesn't matter how you feel about networking or engaging with people, because that's part of our job anyways.
On top of that, I think the myth of I can fill recs and that's what's going to save my job or make an impact is no longer, that's a myth right now. If you think that just, I'm the best recruiter in my company and I just fill all the recs, that's not going to keep you in the role you're in or elevate you to the next level wherever that goes. Because we've seen thousands of recruiters get let go and they filled thousands of recs for their organizations. And it's because, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think that's a myth that I came to realize, that filling recs isn't going to save jobs right now. What else are you doing? And if it's not about, it's not an and or statement, or it's not an or statement, it's an and statement going back to Kate. But what else are you doing, and what impact are you making for the organization?
I'll tell you right now, and you can keep this rolling and recording because it's actually happening. The more you use LinkedIn Recruiter, the more you're at risk of losing your job. Because behind the scenes, LinkedIn is negotiating with your CFO and your hiring leader for a 30% contract increase. So if you're paying $1 million, they're looking at 1.3. And by the way, $1 million is nothing for LinkedIn. So do the math, right? How much are you getting paid? What's your all-in expense? How much is your license? So then you're saying, we can't afford that. So guess what LinkedIn is saying in return? I've heard this now from a half a dozen TA leaders. Well, then you need to reduce your headcount, embrace our agent, and use us more. And then ask yourself, what value did LinkedIn give you in general? So Dan, to your point, absolutely 100%. And it doesn't matter how much you're using technology either, because I think if you weren't so dependent on a solution that doesn't really care about you and doesn't want to see you successful, they just want your money, then you're at risk of being let go.
Kate, Brian?
I make this joke all the time, and it's not that funny. LinkedIn is free.
Yes.
That's because we're the bacon, the BACIN. Okay.
IN.
They net IN, BACIN, bacon.
LinkedIn, I
Yeah,
get it.
FinkedIn, bacon. Yeah, I know all those jokes, right? But
Makes me
the
laugh.
but the reality of it is that guys, like, we're posting on LinkedIn day in and day out. We're training their algorithm. We are if you're using it for free, you're being monetized in one way. If you're using it in the paid version, you're training it. Think about messaging. Its messaging for AI generated messages is horrendous. Okay. I'll go on the record for saying that. But what they're doing is they have all that data about what messages you make that work for them, and they're distributing that amongst the network. So what you're doing is you're going from having really tasty Rocky Road, marshmallow induced cookies and cream and granola ice cream to vanilla. And I have nothing against vanilla, but candidates don't want vanilla, and neither do you.
My 5-year-old likes vanilla.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, vanilla doesn't capture the minds and attention. Like I'm recruiting right now. I've got 7 recs that I'm working on for heads of engineering for AI startups, right? I can't afford to send them a vanilla message. They all know each other. They're all gonna talk about it in their WhatsApp group, right? I can't afford to be stupid. And that is the cognitive liposuction that is LinkedIn.
Mhm. But I always go back to Brian, like people like you, Jim Schneider. There's a very small group of recruiters, and there's more out there that I know in this space that actually, for example, the positions that you're trying to fill, you're not actually going to find those candidates using traditional ways.
No,
I always go back from like, if you guys used to attend Jim Schneider sessions from SourceCon like 10 years ago when he was talking about drip campaigns. And I remember being in the back of the room being like, what's a drip campaign? And now I'm leading marketing. It's kind of weird. But like Jim would look for positions at PepsiCo, and there would only be like 20 people in the world that can do that job. And he would have he would have to he would nurture them and talk to them and communicate with them and build relationships with them. The candidates, most candidates were willing and able. And I was always was like, wow, now that's a hard job. Now, as we know, Jim eventually, did get let go from Pepsi, but at the same point, that's what I think is like when I look at recruiting, I'm like, man, that's good. High volume recruiting, same thing, right? It's how are you are managing people, not necessarily how are you letting candidates manage you.
so I wish I had a copy of this, but I don't. But back when I had my first search firm, Point Endeavors, we focused on hospitality. And what we would do, and this is before the whole newsletter craze, this is going back about 15 years ago, is that we would send out our hot jobs to our candidates, but we would also include a recipe from a chef. The guy's name was Mike Morris. He owns a barbecue restaurant now in I forget where, but anyhow, the fact matters is we always had a chef's corner from him with all the tips and tricks that you could do. And I think about that as the previous incarnation of the nurturing campaign and how much value there was in creating that relationship with a candidate. Like, hey, where's my monthly recipe, right? Like they were collecting it like a card or something. But no, I think that I think that we've got to use AI as a tool to do better research, but I don't think that that better research is necessarily LinkedIn. I mean, I have a candidate who I connected with through their Medium post about their usability features, and they were like, "You read this?" And I was like, "Actually, I didn't read it. I had an agent go out and find it for me, and I read a summary." And he was like, "Thanks for your honesty." And like, we had a
Cool.
great conversation from there, right?
Yeah. I think, so Dan, I know we're getting out of time. Where do I think recruiters can fit in right now? I think we fit in everywhere. I really do. I would say embrace AI, right? Lean into the administrative tasks and let AI do that. Let AI do the stuff you just simply don't like to do. I didn't like doing emails and constructing emails and mass sending and copy and paste. I didn't like that stuff, and I'm glad recruiters don't have to do that anymore. But what I did like was spending time with candidates, and I liked networking, and I liked learning about the profession I was operating in. That to me was fascinating. That to me broke up the monotonous day-to-day work that we had to do, day in and day out, the grind. And so I think where we fit in is going back into what makes us unique as humans, which is having that connection, having that authentic relationship with somebody else. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we are still the gatekeepers to someone's livelihood. We're still the gatekeepers to somebody, providing a better income for their family. And we're still the gatekeepers of building really great teams, which I think at the end of the day, that's what recruiters really like to do.
As we go off this chef recipe, Kate, Brian, any last minute words of advice on recruiters, where they fit in as we wrap up?
I think that most recruiters that I know are impassioned about making connections between people. Oh, you need a job? I know the person that's hiring for that job, and just being able to connect the dots, right? I think that's one of our great values. And I think that there's so many ways that AI can assist recruiters to be able to focus on making those connections. So I'd encourage recruiters to embrace curiosity and really go out there and learn everything you can about where AI is going and what's going on in AI. Learn some good prompts, start using those in your day-to-day, and see if that doesn't enable you to do something that you weren't even able to do before. I think that's the real power of AI, is what are you going to be able to do now that you weren't able to do yesterday because you have AI assisting you.
Well said.
Love it. Well, I want to encourage everybody that attended this session a couple things. Again, AI is there, and it's not just going to do your job for you. You need to understand how it works and continue to dive in deep of what's going to be the best use cases for you and your recruiting teams on what's the best outcome for you, candidates, and the organization. So dive in deep on the academy that we have for the AI courses, but ultimately on the second end, it's about the relationships and networking and influencing. And if you want to understand more about that, we have RecruitCon August 13th and 14th. It's 100% free. So sign up your teams for that. It's one of the best speaking lineups you're going to have all year, and it's 100% free. If you're not able to attend, please sign up anyways, and you'll get the recordings as well. But again, we're here to create experiences for your career and the next generation of what recruiters look like. So I want to say thank you guys. Thank you panelists for joining this intense conversation. And we're excited for many more conversations ahead. So thank you so much. If you want more information about HireEasy, go to hireeasy.com or go download that PDF and get involved. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
The future of talent acquisition isn't coming. It's already here. See for yourself at hireeasy.com.